Hello, friends. Today I'm going to share a story where God resides. There was a small, picturesque village situated on the bank of a river surrounded by lush green mountains. It had a small church nestled in the heart of the village, which was built with great love and labor by the villagers, who would begin their day with a visit to the church. As most villagers depend on agriculture for their livelihood, they were eagerly awaiting the monsoon. The pleasant pre monsoon breeze and the dark clouds only enhanced the beauty of the village and the mountains around it. And then, to the sheer delight of the villagers, a drizzle not only brought the temperature down but also left behind a divine fragrance of wet mud as a gift. A few days later, there was a heavy downpour in the village. The villagers could not contain their joy. They had been desperately waiting for the rains, but by evening their joy turned into a nightmare. The downpour continued incessantly till the next afternoon. By then, the entire village was submerged under water. Gradually, the downpour reduced to drizzle and then stopped completely. With their homes devastated by the flood, the villagers wandered about assessing the damage to their village. It was then that an amazing sight caught their attention. While every other village building was destroyed or was underwater, the church stood in its magnificent glory and has suffered no damage at all. The villagers were stunned, and seeing this, everyone felt it was a miracle. Soon, news of the purity and sanctity of the church spread far and wide. Millions of dollars poured in as a donation for the church, and people from distant land began flocking to the tiny village to worship in the miraculous church. Gradually, the small village church was transformed into a grand, world famous church. But there was something about the church which had not changed. It was the head priest, who had been elected by the villagers when they had built the church. He continued to preside over the newly transformed church as well, with a large amount of money under his sole control. As the flood has devastated the entire village, the villagers decided to seek help from the head priest to rebuild their village. But when they approached him, they were stunned to hear his reply. Not only did the head priest refuse to accede to the villagers' request, but also told them in no uncertain terms that the money belonged to God, so it could not be used to rebuild the village. To make matters worse, the devotees who came to visit the grand church from distant places paid no heed to the villagers' plight. They would only donate money to the church and leave. Left with no other option but to fend for themselves, the villagers marshaled their resources and, with the assistance of few non governmental organizations, managed to reconstruct their village. Nature had decided to make the village and the surroundings region a target of its wrath. Barely had a year elapsed after the flood when nature once again unleashed its fury on the hapless villagers. One night, when the villagers were fast asleep after a hard day work, an earthquake rocked the entire village, sending everyone into a tizzy. Fortunately, it was a mild tremor and did not cause much devastation. But the aftermath of the earthquake had wreaked its havoc on something that left the villagers utterly shocked and bewildered. While the earthquake caused minimal damage to their houses, it has reduced the grand church to rubble. It was a grave catastrophe indeed. How could the church now be considered miraculous? The news of the devastation of the church also spread like wildfire. Soon the number of devotees visited to dwindled by the day. Even its rich patrons, who had earlier sent millions of dollars in donation, did not evince interest in reconstructing the church. Dejected and defeated by this sudden turn of events, the otherwise arrogant head priest was left with no choice but to approach the villagers for help. But this time the villagers turned a deaf ear to his request. They told him bluntly, "We now know the God resides in the heart of the NGOs who help hardworking people and not in churches. So henceforth we would rather help these NGOs instead of churches." They replied in unison. Thank you.